Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for joining us here at Georgetown's Initiative on Catholic Social Thought and Public Life for this live streamed public dialogue on Catholic sisters living the Church's social mission, Signs of Hope. We're so grateful to have so many of you joining us here today, with over 1,300 people registered in advance for our conversation, including so many Catholic women religious from around the world. Welcome to this conversation. We want to take this opportunity to thank you in particular for your dedication, for your lives of service, and for your witness. So Catholic social teaching calls us to stand in solidarity with the poor and the vulnerable, to advance justice and the common good, to protect human life and dignity, to care for our common home. Too often, conversations around these topics can seem abstract. We know that Pope Francis tells us all the time, reality is greater than ideas. That's how we understand ideas. We know that we want to see how Catholic social teaching looks in action, how it's lived out around the world in our global church. We know that one of the best ways to do that would be to highlight the efforts of Catholic women religious, whose work too often goes unnoticed. Catholic sisters have long been at the forefront of work for justice, peace, and care for creation. They lead schools and soup kitchens, advocacy efforts, anti-trafficking initiatives, healthcare efforts, and countless ministries in communities everywhere. More than 700,000 Catholic sisters live and work in countries around the world and are often found leading the ministries that bring dignity and hope to young people, to families, to the elderly, to those living in poverty. So today we hope to offer a window into ways that religious sisters make the gospel come alive in some of the poorest and most challenging places on earth. 4 Catholic sisters working in Kenya, Peru, Uganda, and at the US southern border will explore how their vocation makes a difference in their communities and what lessons we can draw from their experiences living out the Church's social mission. We have such a remarkable group here today for our conversation. Sister Paulina Cayo is a member of the Little Sisters of Mary Immaculate of Gulu and has worked for Catholic Relief Services since 1998. She currently works in Kenya as the project coordinator for the group Strengthening the Capacity of Women Religious in Early Childhood Development. Sister Rosemary Narambe is a member of the Sisters of the Sacred Heart of Jesus in Gulu, Uganda, and currently serves as the director of St. Monica's Girls Tailoring Center, where she works with women and girls who have suffered horrific acts of violence due to the Civil War. Sister Norma Pimentel is the executive director of Catholic Charities of the Rio Grande Valley and the leader of the Humanitarian Respite Center for families fleeing violence in Central America. Pope Francis has praised her work with refugees and migrants to the United States. And Sister Pat Ryan is a Maryknoll sister who has lived and worked in Peru since 1971. She's an advocate for human rights and environmental justice and works with indigenous farmers in the Andes Mountains. So once again, thanks to all of you who are joining us on the live stream. Please share your thoughts on social media using the hashtag CatholicSistersGU and by tagging the initiative at GUCST Public Life and our co-sponsor, the Berkeley Center at GU Berkeley Center. We'll have an opportunity for questions and answers later on, so please submit questions for the panelists by following the prompts at the bottom of your screen. This dialogue is being recorded and we'll post it on our website and social channels for later viewing. And so now let's start this conversation. I'd like to ask each one of you in turn to answer an opening question. And Sister Rosemary, let's start with you. What is the vocation of Catholic sisters in this time and in your particular context?
I like the word vocation, and I would like to say that the vocation is that call which cannot be described as something collective. All of us have a call, and every society has got a call or a charism to follow. But again, every individual within the congregation or institute has a call. And when I speak in my context that I am working, following a call, but I have my own call within this same call. That is the vocation I'm following, caring for the vulnerable women and children.
Thank you so much. Sister Pauline, how about you? How do you understand your vocation, the vocation of Catholic sisters in your particular context?
To me, the vocation of Catholic sisters, besides call, at this time is to recognize the traces of the Spirit of God. And not only that, His protection in our ministries amidst the world of confusion, conflict, or moral decay. I can give an example of where I recognize God's protection, though there are many, and His Spirit guiding me when I was managing CRS peace building work in northern Uganda and working with the child soldiers who have returned from captivity. How God guided us, how God guided me and the people we are working with in getting these children, providing psychosocial counseling, reintegrating them in the community, and reconciling them before reintegrating with the community. And after reintegration, making a follow-up to make sure that they settle. And this, for me, is calls for vocation, which is total self-giving, love for the suffering, dedication, a lot of commitment and collaboration from the different stakeholders that we work with in the world, besides God guidance every day. Thank you.
Thank you. And I love what we're hearing, right? A call, total self-giving, love for the suffering of others and walking with them. Sister Pat, how about yourself? How do you understand the vocation of Catholic sisters, and particularly in your context?
I think I'd put it into maybe like a threefold, something that has to mesh together well. And it would start and be based on an option for the poor, to live and to work, to join with the poor. You got to walk together. And that option is not optional. It is an essential part of our commitment as Christians, a core part of that. We can't put it aside and say, well, we may or may not be involved with that. It is who we have to be as Christians with an option for the poor to live that. And the second dimension, I think I would put the care for our common home. Here we would call her Mother Earth or Pachamama, upon whom our lives depend. And I'm thinking too in Genesis, there are two creation stories there. The first one speaks more of dominance and conquering. The second one, I think, is much more aligned with Pope Francis's understanding of our concern about the earth, because it calls us to care for the earth, to cultivate the earth as our home, our common home, and we have to protect her. And the third dimension, I believe, is the nonviolent option, to always be looking together with the people for nonviolent paths to deal with very conflicted situations, but knowing that there is a way that is nonviolent that can be created, and that we have to be a part of creating that new way of approaching life and approaching conflict in a way that is not going to cause violence nor death. For me, those are the three basic elements of what our commitment is all about, not just as sisters, but as Christians.
Vocation for all of us, to be sure. Sister Norma, how about yourself? What do you see as the vocation of Catholic sisters in this time and in your particular context?
I find that it is important that our presence is a visible presence of the love of God to His people. Religious sisters today, especially in the area where I am at, is that we become present so that we can empower others to have the confidence they need to move forward in doing good, to be able to be involved and to care for others, to care for one another, to not lose sight of the fact that we have a responsibility to care for humanity, and we take an active role in being present and encouraging others to do the same. I think that for us as religious sisters today, that is a very important part of who we are.
I think we're going to see that in your stories. That means so much, right? To say that your presence is empowering for other people and walking with them as well. So I'd love to sort of start to delve more into that. And Sister Rosemary, why don't I start with you? You have lived through a horrific campaign of terror in your country. You now work to heal the wounds of that time. You lead St. Monica's Girls Training Center in Gulu, Uganda, which is a place of healing for women and girls, where you teach them practical skills to earn a living, as well as the power of forgiveness and hope. And the award-winning film Sowing Hope was made about your work. Could you tell us how you ended up in this ministry? What have you learned from the women and girls at St. Monica's?
What I can say is that I did not end in this ministry, but I created this ministry. Because in the first place, I had to respond to the invitation of my superiors in obedience, who posted me to go to this place. And when I arrived, I had to read the signs of time. And for me, the signs of time was that I needed to respond to the vulnerable women and children who were escaping from rebel captivity and think about what could be done in order to mend their brokenness, in order to show them the path of tomorrow, a future of hope. And for that reason, I had to create so many different programs. I had to become active, innovative, and I had to make sure that I lead by example. And of course, many times when we are sent as religious sisters, we always think of job descriptions, but I found job description was not working for me. I had to create my job description and create different activities and lead by example.
Well, thank you for that. And tell us a little bit more, if you don't mind, about what it means. You're a global leader. I mean, you've been featured in this award-winning documentary. You have a TED Talk. You've been featured in international publications. You're a leader. What does women's leadership look like in your community? You've talked a little bit about your work in creating this ministry and how you have to be innovative and look around and see how you can answer the needs. What does women's leadership look like in your community, in your ministry, but also in the global church? How could the church expand leadership roles for women?
In the first place, I find myself featured in documentary movies narrated by a very famous person, and of course, the TED Talks people are watching and so forth. One thing which I have to tell you is that it doesn't define me. It doesn't make me to be totally different. Within my own community, the leadership you will find is that we are all the same. But at the same time, I have to stand out to be that innovative person and mentor other sisters to follow, to come and see exactly what can be done, not only now, also for tomorrow. In a way, I have to build other Sister Rosemary's within my community. And eventually, that becomes something we can all do and follow within the church. And of course, the leadership, which we are talking about in the church, is that leadership where we have to lead by example, be present. And for me, that was very, very visible in the center where I was sent in St. Monica. I was helpless. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to start to teach and so forth. But I had to lead them by being present, teaching them what I knew myself, just practical skills, cooking, maybe sewing clothes. I had to be present in all this. So that is the type of leadership which I think the church can amplify. The church can look at and say, where are we going with the vulnerable people? What can we give them? What can mend their brokenness? What can teach them and give them that skills to settle in the community?
That's great. It sounds, I mean, one lesson to take, I guess, is that leadership starts with presence, and it starts with being present with people and walking with them. We're having a little trouble with Sister Pauline's video. So Sister Pat, I'm going to come to you if you don't mind. And just ask you we talk about how you have lived and worked in Peru with the Aymara people. You've had a long career in human rights advocacy. You've worked to defend the rights of indigenous people and protect vital environmental resources. So how does this work, which focuses on dynamics of power, exploitation, follow your understanding of the gospel, your vocation as a sister?
There's so much that I could bring up here about experiences and trying to think of something that might encapsulate it. I would say that the value of the dignity of each and every person is at the basis, and how to come to walking with the people in a way that they begin to value themselves so much more and recognize their own dignity. And the enabling has to be themselves, enabling themselves to know their rights and to be able to speak to those rights and to do so peacefully, but insistently. Because the Aymara, Quechua, and Uro indigenous people of Puno, Peru, have been relegated to non-important, almost invisible. They're never taken into consideration. The basic needs to live are denied them. And their lives are really not taken as valuable. So they can be killed, just as just happened January and December of this year. December last year through the first months of this year, where intentionally the military and the police opened fire on indigenous people in Peru. And once again, we lost lives, and we had thousands wounded with bullets, with buckshot, with tear gas, because their lives don't matter. And the powers that be feel they can get away with that. So there's a need to be able to raise up the value and the dignity of each and every person in Peru, and especially the indigenous people, and to respect their rights. Another element of this deals with water. Water, we know, is so key to being able to live. Without water, there simply is not life. And this is even more poignant right now because of the drought that we are experiencing here in Peru and the global Nino event that is programmed to take place this year. Water is at a premium. There is so little sweet water that is drinkable. And up here in the Altiplano of Peru, the water is contaminated, severely contaminated. Lake Titicaca, the highest navigable lake in the world, beautiful, is totally contaminated. All the rivers are contaminated, basically by irresponsible mining, which is filling it with toxic metals that are affecting the health not only of the people, but of all the animals here, the birds, the fish, the cattle, and the atmosphere. That water is at a premium because it is also drying up with the climate change. So for our own selves here and throughout the world, we really do need to look at the question of climate change. And I believe that Pope Francis's letter, Laudato Si, encapsulates what our commitment, what we are being called to today to live. And he's going to be giving a second part to that on October 4th. I think it is essential to raise up the dignity of people and to stand together in looking for peaceful ways to resolve these conflicted situations that we live, and to preserve the life of the water, which really preserves the life of our One Earth community, of our planet.
Well, and let me follow up a little bit on that. I'm glad you mentioned Laudato Si and the follow-up that will happen from Pope Francis on October 4th. Can you talk a little bit more about the resources that your Catholic faith and Catholic social teaching bring to your work, how you access that, how it helps you with your work in your specific context?
And I think in Peru, we're very rich also in social doctrine, starting with the time of Vatican II, and the wonderful bishops that we have had here in the Southern Andes region of the church. Their pastoral letters to us are still very valid today. One was to read the signs of the times. It's picking up those signs of the times and walking with the people in determining how we are going to respond to the signs of the times to create life and to create dignity, recognition of dignity. So that letter that they did, this is back in 1978, is still valid today. We always need to be able to be on top of what is happening and be a part of responding to it peacefully and validly. Another wonderful document that we also have here is the earth. The earth as gift from God and the right of the people. We have to protect the earth. She is our source of life. This doctrine, social doctrine here in Peru and in Latin America, has enlivened us being committed as Christians and living our commitment here in defense of the earth and in defense of all of those who protect the earth as well, because their lives are endangered. Another wonderful document that we also have is there is still time. We're not too late. That's regarding the political violence that we are experiencing. We can stop it. And we can be effective in trying to reverse the violence into a peaceful response where all of us recognize each other as brothers and sisters and with equal rights, and especially the poorest.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. All of those documents are so important and can enrich our understanding of how to live out our faith. Sister Pauline, I'd love to come to you now. You joined the Little Sisters of Mary Immaculate in Gulu, Uganda as a teenager. You earned a bachelor's degree in education and psychology at a Pontifical University in Rome, a master's degree in peace and conflict transformation from Gulu University, and you have a degree in early childhood development. In your work with Catholic Relief Services, you help equip and support Catholic sisters to provide health and nutrition services, responsive caregiving, opportunities for early learning to the most vulnerable children. How should the rest of us understand religious life and these ministries in your communities? What draws you to this particular work?
Religious life, as I've already said, is devoting and committing myself to the life to serve God and His people. And to me is giving life to the hopeless, those in need, being the voice of the voiceless, and most of all, empowering the most vulnerable in the community, as you have already said, supporting Catholic sisters, empowering them. My ministry in the community through my work with Catholic Relief Services, which is supported by Conrad N. Hilton Foundation, is mostly to empower the sisters and caregivers to provide quality nurturing care services to the community. And this is for authentic development of the human beings. We do this first by supporting religious congregations across African countries to be sustainable through capacity strengthening approaches, like capacity building of individual sisters or sisters within the congregation, and institutional strengthening by supporting sisters to develop systems for their congregations, to develop policies, etc., put structures in place, and also to accompany them, not leave them, but accompany them throughout towards sustainability. And this will make the sisters, and it has even empowered sisters, to provide nutrition, responsive caregiving, opportunity for learning, what we call nurturing care, together with the caregivers. And also the sisters, by empowering them, they're now working together to support mothers and fathers to learn how to handle stress that can harm their children or unborn children, damage their health, feelings, and thoughts that can prevent them from providing holistic quality services to the children. We have also noticed that, especially in Africa, men, they like giving women to carry the heavy load by bringing up the children. So we work with sisters congregation, empower them to strengthen marriages, bringing the man and the woman in the house together. We call it smart couple. And we bring the couples together to strengthen relationship in the house so that they live in unity, joint planning. Many times men like planning and going to do things. But now, with what we are doing, they have joint planning, decision making. Women have now chance to make decisions together with their husband for the good of the house. And also we help them for economic empowerment at the household. And all these sisters are at the periphery, sisters are everywhere, working with other stakeholders to bring the community, to give life through what we are doing, and to be the voice of voiceless in the community. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I mean, I think it's really interesting to me. We've heard this a lot so far today, that it's all of this work, all of the work you all are doing are empowering women for service to for the most vulnerable, empowering women in relationships economically, and all for this self-giving love, right? All out of this self-giving love. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that, Sister Pauline, about how Catholic social teaching, how your faith helps shape your work in East Africa.
Okay, the Catholic social teaching to me have to do with the Catholic doctrine in regards to human dignity and the common good, and of course the Catholic social teaching principles. In the perspective of the Catholic social teaching of the Church calls us to be attentive to the needs of the poor, care for the earth. We need to defend and promote the dignity of the human person, and to help meet their spiritual as well as material needs. And to meet the Catholic social teaching, for us, CRS is the foundation for our guiding principles. It calls all of us and the people we work with to work for true justice and lasting peace. And to me, it has shaped and inspired me a lot to work in order to promote justice and peace, respect and right, and the dignity of the human person. And above all, it has really encouraged me to advocate and empower others to protect, and not only to protect, but to cherish human life right from conception. Our work, we deal with children who are born right from conception, not to be aborted, to cherish life until natural death. And by including the poor and the most vulnerable in all our programs that we do, or all our ministry. I give an example. By including those with special needs, we pay more attention to them. We include them in all our programs, and then those who are at the margin of the society. Thank you.
Thank you. And I love this. I love the idea, right, that we're caring, your work, everybody's work is caring for the most vulnerable among us. And that seems to be a through line here for everybody, right? Trying to focus on those who are most vulnerable, most poor. And with that, I want to go to you, Sister Norma. You're the Executive Director of Catholic Charities of the Rio Grande Valley. You run the Humanitarian Respite Center in McAllen, Texas. You are a longtime friend of the initiative and of mine, and we're so grateful for your work. You respond to the immediate needs of people who are migrating and interest crossed into the United States, and work with some of the most precarious and vulnerable times of their lives, right, when they're crossing. What does your faith bring to this work? How does your role as a sister, what does it allow you to do specifically in this context?
Yes, as we all know today, we're facing a very divisive and polarized country, and on thought about immigrants, and how many are fearful of the fact that so many people migrate to the United States and are here in the United States, and it becomes very controversy as to whether we should respond, should help, should be caring, and do something about this many number of families and people that are here in this country. And I think that we lose sight of the one important part of who we are in the whole process of discernment, or trying to decide what is really happening, and we're, I always say, hijacked by the political platforms that try to build a narrative that brings fear to us and to many of the people here in our country. And so I think that one thing that we as religious, especially myself, that hold very closely to what I'm all about, is about defending humanity, protecting life, being present to them who are hurting and suffering and are here in our community, and they need water, as some of our sisters just shared. They need food. They need a response of the fact that their life matters, and I think our presence as religious is a presence of making God's presence of love, that we all have a responsibility with humanity, to not lose sight of our own humanity in the process of trying to protect our borders, in trying to protect our communities, in trying to discern what the answers are to address the whole immigration reality that we're facing today, and to also include in whatever decisions we make or try to attempt to resolve, if at all try to resolve, is to remember that we have a responsibility to one another. We have a responsibility to humanity and to care, that is a God-given call to all of us to care for one another, and to defend human dignity and respect to human life. And so I think that has been my mission and my response in everything, and try to stay away from the political, the force that's trying to destroy the good nature of people to care for one another, to bring out their faith and say, part of who I am as a person of faith is to stand up and speak and defend and protect and care for humanity.
Well, I want to maybe sort of explore that a little bit more. That's wonderful and was beautiful. And I just want to, everybody here on this call, all the sisters on this call have faced challenges, have faced some backlash. I want to talk about some of the challenges and backlash you face because of your work at the border from some more politically motivated groups within the church outside of it. As a sister, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with this very hostile and divisive political environment? How does it inform and shape the course of your work?
I try not to be distracted. My centeredness needs to be from God. God needs to be the force that pulls me forward and sustains me in one direction, which is the love and care of others, And so when there's a negative force there trying to pull me down or trying to call me out as something evil, something wrong, if I focus on that, it takes away from my 100% giving of what I must do, and I must be present. And I can be okay being tired at the end of the day, but I feel a sense of accomplishment that God was present to so many people through my walking through and accompanying and being there for and doing my part in helping those that need to know God loves them.
What I love about that, and what I've heard from everybody here is we're just hearing again and again how much your spiritual life is central, how central your faith is to the work that you do, and how important it is for you all. We have a lot of questions coming in from the audience, and so I'd like to get started with that. And maybe this question kind of tracks on that. And I hopefully will go to you, Sister Rosemary, if that's okay. One of our students asks, how do you find balance between your spiritual life and your practical responsibilities in your religious community? And how does this balance affect your daily routine? I'm struck in watching Sowing Hope that you're very practical. You're very, sort of out there working with people all day long. Tell us how your spiritual life fits into that and how you find balance. And then maybe we'll go to one or two others to answer that question too.
One thing, though, which brings a balance personally to me in what I do is not putting aside my spiritual part and then my practical part or my involvement in the ministry. I find everything is together because it is part of me. And this same me must fit within the community. And that means what I'm doing must align with the charism of my congregation, with exactly what my congregation is endeavoring to do, like caring for the poor, working with the vulnerable, caring for the orphans and the refugees. That's exactly what my congregation is currently involved in. And of course, that is what brings me the balance, because I'm not doing anything I'm doing outside what my congregation requires and what my community is asked to do. And of course, that is doing something within the church. And I think for me, that is exactly the balance. That is my spiritual part. And the most important part is being present, preaching by being present. If I stand there and open the Bible the whole day and preach, it will not be enough if I did not put that into practice. My being present, by the time everybody or someone is noticing that the sisters are working with the poor, they're working with the orphans, not only working, but they're living with them 24/7. It is enough to say they are preaching Christ with their presence. Right now, we have sisters who are stuck in the northern part of Sudan, and I spoke with one of them 2 days ago. It is shocking to see that these sisters are caught up in a refugee camp. They cannot escape. They are starving with the people. They are working with the people. And I asked Sister, what keeps her there? She said, it's important for us to remain with the people, to give them hope. Because when we move away, even few days, they ask us, you are making us lose hope. And that's exactly to say, we need a balance. The balance is be present in whatever we are doing. And that is our spiritual part. And that is our call.
That's wonderful. I wonder if I might follow up with you, Sister Pat, on that, because I'm struck that you've been present in Peru since 1971, that you have done this work for so long. I wonder if we could first follow up on that question, right? How do you balance your spiritual and your daily life? How does that all work? How do you balance your life together? And what does presence, being present, what does that mean for you in your community?
As Maryknoll sisters, our presence, we hope, makes visible God's love. And in being present with the people, that it's a mutual celebration of our spirituality, in giving thanks for Mother Earth, and giving thanks for the life that God has given us, our Creator has given us, and asks us to prolong that life of all living beings. It's joining together in moments of great joy as well as great sorrow. It's being there and being a part of those celebrations and being part of the grief too. It's one where your life becomes one. I can't separate out spiritual and practical, or however we want to term it. We are one being, and it has to be flowing from within our beings what our commitment is all about, and what our commitment to the people, what form that is taking. Just being present makes all the difference in the world. In Spanish, I'd say it's that calor humano. It's that reaching out to each other, just knowing that we can count on each other, and that our presence together brings us peace and brings us strength and brings us inspiration to be able to create paths that will lead us to fuller life. It's a wonderful moment when people like ourselves have the possibility of entering into the lives of another culture, the lives of another people, another history. And when the openness is there of the peoples to enable you to enter into their reality and to accept you as a sister, and together you see each other as sisters and brothers, trying to be true to our Creator and to our One Earth community. I'll stop there.
Thank you. And I'm struck at what you just said about life hanging together as an integrated whole, right? That you can't separate these two pieces out, that it flows through your life, through your day. Sister Pauline, maybe I'll bring this question to you. How does your spiritual and sort of practical daily life balance? How do you find that? And maybe a follow-up to that, which another question from a student: what advice would you offer to young women who are considering a vocation as a Catholic sister? How can they discern if this path is right for them? So how do you balance your spiritual and your daily life? And what advice would you give to young women?
In my congregation, our motto is ora et labora, meaning prayer and work. You can't separate the two. So we begin our prayers very early in the morning. By 5 o'clock, we are up. By the time I'm going for my work at 8, I've already got my spiritual strength plus the mass we go for. And in the course of the work, we also balance. When we are working, our work becomes also part of the prayer. The way we interact with people, we get the strength to give Christ to others throughout the day, through our work. And then it gives us the strength to give smile to those hopeless whom we meet, to stand with the people in time of joy and in times of sorrow. And in the evening, when we finish the official work, we come and close the day with prayer, getting again nourished spiritually, balancing prayer and work. And it keeps us moving, and it keeps us doing the work. It gives us strength to go out and empower the women I've talked of, and to empower the sisters and the people we work with. Thank you. What is the second question?
Well, first of all, how young women might what would they take from your life? How might they find a vocation? What would you say to young women today who might be considering a vocation?
The young women, we have a lot of young women who are joining our congregation, and we have criteria for choosing them. But then they are so much attracted to our work because of the way they see us, how we work, how we interact, how we stand with them, how we give total giving that we give to the work we do. They get so much attracted to it, and many of them ask to come and join our congregation, but we have to follow you for sometimes 2-3 years before you join. And there are criteria and steps to be taken before you are taken in. But they get so attracted, and they always say, sisters, I thought sisters only pray in the convent. But what we have seen now, you give yourself totally to the work God has called you for, and you are doing more than working even in the remotest place where there are nobody, where there's conflict, you find sisters are there. People may run away. And then that is the strength we get when we balance ora and labora, prayer and work. And it attracts people. Even when we talk or we don't talk, our life communicates. And it makes so many get attracted to join the religious life. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sister Norma, maybe I'll take this to you. First of all, just any insight you have onto those questions, but in particular, because we're talking a lot about accompanying individual people and accompanying people every day being present. I'd love to hear if you could share a particular success story, initiative, story of a person you know or have met in this work that has really had a real impact on you or helps us understand where you are.
Personally, of course, there has been several people that have been very important in my life that led me to where I'm at today. But I think most definitely, answering your question that you just recently asked to someone who may be with the thoughts of maybe joining a religious life or following God's call to consecrate their life to God. I think that it is He who actually pulls us forward and says, I want you, I need you. And there's something that within ourselves that we feel we must respond to, and I think the best way is to not be afraid and just go forward and do it, and join a group where you have an opportunity to experience and see and know what is happening. And if that is where you feel what you are considering that God is in moving you to look at, it will guide you to actually know that this is where God wants you, and it makes a big difference and a big impact. I know for me, there was a beautiful woman in the community I joined, Juliana Garcia, who is a Spanish from Spain, and her love for the church and for Jesus and her dedication and clarity to knowing what God wanted of her was so amazingly that it just encouraged me to discover that in me myself as well. And so I think that it is important that we give ourselves a chance to let God guide us and pull us forward and not be afraid to do that. It's we need more women that are decisive and wanting to make a difference in their lives, really totally giving themselves 100% to what God wants of them.
I love it. Giving ourselves, more women giving ourselves 100% to what God wants of them. Sister Rosemary, I wonder if we might bring that to you. And we're talking about leadership and what it means to be a woman leader. What do you see in your community? Any stories of people that you have met, interacted with, that you see as real leaders or future leaders in your work? Anybody maybe in other organizations that you've worked with or on the ground in your work? And what does that leadership look like for you?
I think the people I see immediately as leaders are the very people I work with. These young women who have taught me so many things, and I think many of us can learn from them, the importance of resilience. These women are so resilient, knowing their painful experience, knowing their past. And there's one woman who really strikes me whenever I think about the story of how a person can become strong as a mother and as a woman. This young girl escaped from captivity with her baby, 1 week old. She tied the baby on the back and she held her gun to come back home. When she met Uganda government soldiers, she was told to put the gun down, and she told them, say, you put your guns down, then I'll come to you. When they put their guns down, she walked to them. And then she put her gun down, and these people brought this woman back to Uganda. Later on, she found herself in St. Monica with this baby, and I asked her the name of this baby. She said, sister, the name is Joy. And I wondered what is joyous about that painful experience. Then I asked her again, how is it that you struggle to escape with this baby? She said, I could not leave this baby behind because she is my blood. That touched me so deeply to see this woman had nothing. She escaped with this baby. She valued the life of this baby. And really, that is a big lesson we can learn from. For me, those are the women who are leaders. And again, some of these women who passed in our hands, I've seen them leading different groups. Like there is one who is now a leader of the network advocacy for women, especially formerly abducted. That makes me so happy to see that we don't need to look for leaders very far from our community. Our community are the people we are working with now. They teach us a different type of leadership. They teach us the importance of valuing life and the importance of being there in pain and in joy.
I love that. Something that we've seen, as we get ready for this, as we've been getting ready for this conversation, is just the evident joy that you all have in your lives and in your work. And I think that, to me, that is one of the most attractive things of all about this work. And I know you all just communicated so well. So I love that you mentioned that, Sister Rosemary. Sister Pat, I want to go to you for a second and pick up on this idea of leadership in the communities that you all are in, and what you've learned from the people you're working with. How you see leadership in your community, maybe highlighting somebody individually if you want to, or a story you want to tell.
I'd like to tell the story of a community called Kondarake. And we have given them the nickname of Burning Water because they have suffered from contamination from irresponsible mining. In Peru, there are over 8,500 cases of environmental destruction caused by irresponsible mining. And the communities that live there, that's their territory and their home for centuries, are the ones who suffer the consequences and the death caused by those toxic metals. And in this particular community, first of all, I'd also like to say, we never work alone as Maryknoll Sisters. You always work with others, with the local people. And so what enables me also to be here is not just my congregation, but the team that I work on. That's called Human Rights and Environment. It's the translation of the name of the team. And they are Aymara and Quechua indigenous people. And they guide me and help me enter into their reality much more deeply. But Kondarake, their animals were dying. They raised cattle, alpaca, that beautiful fiber that we get sweaters from them. And their cattle were dying because of the contamination caused by the mining contamination. And of those 8,500 cases throughout the country, this was the fourth in regards to the seriousness of the contamination caused, the fourth. Well, we don't know how to deal with that stuff. We didn't know at that point. So it really caused, the people came and they said, come and see, come and see. So we went and we saw with our own eyes, and you just wanted to cry because the contamination was so obvious. And their animals, the skins of the animals were there, the many that had died because of the contamination. And those alpaca are the livelihood of the people in that community. So without going into more detail with that aspect of things, it's just that we had to find a way together with the people. They invited us to help find some way to resolve the situation. And also, curiously enough, that very day that we went to see, we were able to get into the mine, and they didn't want us to get in, but they finally did let us in. By the time we left, they asked us if we would not help open up dialogue. And we said we'd be very willing to. If the community is willing and you people are willing, we certainly would. Well, that has begun a long history. That was back in 2009. We were just invited to go back there 2 weeks ago. And in that span of time, the tension was so severe between the community and the mine. That mine was using the territory of the community to gain their income, and not any benefits were there for the community except death to their animals and also illness to their own community members. So in this period of time, we learned that water monitoring is important, and the community members are able to learn with a little kit how to monitor the value and the quality of their water. And that gave them scientific proof that their water was so acid, it's worse than the acid in a car battery. You put your hand in the water and it burns your hand. The hoofs of the animals, when they crossed the river, were getting distorted and actually falling out because of the high acid content. So we helped the people learn how to use these kits, and they monitored their own water, and they could show we have horrible contamination here, scientific proof. That wasn't enough. We had to also open up a legal case that wasn't asking for millions of dollars. They were just asking, please restore our water to how it was before the mining started. And well, that case was very key because it was the first case in the country that took to task irresponsible mining. And we had the proof that they were responsible for the contamination. And it was the people's case. We collaborated and walked with them on the legal aspect of things because on my team, we do have a lawyer. Well, this has taken years. It's a long story. But the outcome is that the mine has assumed responsibility to rehabilitate the damage they have done. And when they invited us back out there 2 weeks ago, it was to show us how they have advanced, how the water quality of that lagoon and river way up in the hills has now gotten much better. It is now drinkable for animals, not yet for human consumption. This whole plan that started in 2009 still has to go until 2031, in which time the mine has to prove that they really have cleaned up the damage that they have caused. So when we talk about a collective response and collective leadership, that was something that the people themselves took to task in a peaceful way to try to find a way to find rehabilitation for their land and for their animals and for their water. And that water up there affects the whole river basin all the way down to Lake Titicaca. And all those toxic metals are flowing into that lake. So until we can stop that stuff, and that type of contamination, we will not have clean water. So thank you very much.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. And Sister Pauline, I want to kind of come to you with this because what I'm struck by what you said here, Sister Pat, is that you started in dialogue, right? But that led to accountability. You ended up holding people accountable, and that led to a good result. I mean, a step forward, let's say. Sister Pauline, I wonder if you've had that experience in your work where dialogue has been something important. We often, in so many times, in all our different contexts, have to work together across differences. Let me know, we talk about Catholic social thought dialogue, particularly here at a Jesuit university like Georgetown. Dialogue is really important. And I wonder if you've been able to talk across differences in your community or with other people that you work with. I know you collaborate with a lot of organizations. Can you tell us more about that?
Thank you. In my work, we have used dialogue a lot. I'd like to give one or two examples. When I was working, reintegrating the children into the community, it entails a lot of dialogue. Dialoguing with the community leaders and the community, and dialogue with the government department or government people, even including the top government leaders, in order to bring the two together and to make them dialogue in order to bring the children home and be reintegrated. And it is not a one-day work. It needs a lot of time. You begin the first one, it may not be successful. The two parties may not even agree. That does not mean that you have to give up. According to my experience, you need to persevere and be dedicated to what you have started. So you go and organize another dialogue. It may take months and months. Some critical ones can even take 1 year. And I tell you, you will succeed. Every time you dialogue, you bring them together. You are there facilitating the dialogue to make sure that the two parties don't clash. They understand each other and they understand the importance of what you are bringing on the table. And that can make you succeed. But I want to say it takes time. And it needs cooperation, collaboration from all the parties, and openness, and being ready for change and acceptance. Thank you.
Thank you. Sister Norma, let's pick up on this with you, if you don't mind, because I know I've heard you talk about this, that We once talked, we had a longer conversation about division and polarization, and you said something that was really striking. You said there's no polarization at the border, which of course I stepped back and I thought, well, what are the most divisive issue? One of the most divisive issues here in the United States surrounds the border. And what you meant, I think, was the way you work together with people at the border when you see the human faces in front of you. Can you expand on that? What does dialogue or working together across differences mean for you in your work?
Yes, I found that our presence, and I think it has a lot to do with who we are as religious, and how we bring that presence of faith into the picture as to who we are, because it is important to highlight the fact that why we're here and what we're doing together, so that it is not that we're at odds or that we're about what you stand for, what I stand for. It's about what we all both believe in and we all both see. And I think I always encourage people to come and see. I encourage the President of the United States, you must come and see the faces of those children, of those mothers, because what I try to capture is the fact that when you get close enough to somebody and see their suffering, you identify the uniqueness of that human person that is in need of help. And so we can all relate to that reality. It doesn't matter who you are. So I find myself being able to work with everybody. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you are a top official or a city official or Border Patrol, ICE, anyone and everyone. We can talk and we can agree that what we're seeing is something that we must try to see how to respond to and do our best to do it right. And so dialogue is easy because we identify ourselves in the same way of understanding humanity and standing for protecting life and protecting those lives that we can actually acknowledge and see right there before us. And so I believe so much that when you see, you are moved to try to do something about it, And I remember one time I had an experience where this lady comes to our shelter when we had in Brownsville, and she was completely against the fact that we were helping illegal aliens. She was like completely, but she went there to sell something, and that was her goal. But the fact that she told me she was against what I was doing, gave me the opportunity to tell her, look, why don't you come with me and let me show you what I do and why. And when I did that, her whole thought of why she was against completely dismantled. And she said, sister, I am 100% in favor of what you're doing. No more it mattered the fact that these people were, according to her initially, illegal aliens. All of a sudden, they became persons. They became people. And I think that is what brings us together, and I think that's what's important.
I love that. I think it's something Pope Francis talks about really in highlighting the kind of work women like you and people like you do around the world of looking at the faces of people in front of us. That's where we start these conversations. We're getting close to our time here, so I'd love to just go around with each of you with one last question. And I'll start with you, Sister Rosemary. We'd like to ask, what's one element of your religious life that lay people can incorporate into the way we seek out to live the principles of Catholic social teaching? What's one action we can take as we move away from this remarkable conversation? First, you, Sister Rosemary.
One thing, though, which religious sisters are doing everywhere needs to be amplified. And of course, it has to be that the religious sisters should be brought at the main table of discussion. And when they are brought at this main table of discussion, it's not enough to let them sit. They are to be given a voice. Then when they're given the voice, their voices should be amplified. Give them the opportunity to show that this is where we stand. And actually, I've been reflecting about the Gospel of Luke, which says, the Spirit of the Lord has been given to me because I've been anointed and so forth. I love that. The sisters actually have been given that Spirit. Sisters have been anointed to bring the good news to the poor. So why is it that the leadership roles are not being pushed up or being amplified. Let us get that right, that sisters need their voices to be heard. That is the message I can leave you with.
I love it. I love it. And we're trying to do our small part here for sure. Sister Pauline, how about yourself? What is one element of your life that lay people can bring to our lives? What is one way that we can take action from what we've heard here today?
One thing I can leave for the lay people to take according to the Catholic social teaching one is respect for human dignity, defending life, and promoting human dignity and care for the mother house. And above all, empowering sisters in the diocese where the lay people are working, empowering sisters to take leadership position right from the national level, district level, county level, grassroots level, and even to international level. It's happening, but it's not yet enough. And I would like to say, where sisters are, the activities or the work we do are more speaking by themselves and stronger, and it impacts life greatly. Thank you.
Thank you. Sister Pat, how about yourself? What's one element of religious life that lay people can incorporate, one action we can take?
Recognizing that social doctrine is for all Christians, everybody, not just religious women. And I would like to put a special emphasis on Pope Francis's Laudato Si letter, and knowing that he's coming out with an extension of that, especially in this moment where we're becoming so much more aware of climate change and how that is affecting the whole globe, and how we need to respond to that as one body, as a whole global community, if we are to really save our planet and to respect our Mother Earth. So please be attentive when that comes out October 4th. Try to get a copy and read it and reflect on it. And if you haven't read Laudato Si, I would highly recommend it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sister Norma, how about yourself? One element of what we've heard here today that lay people can incorporate in our lives, how we can take action?
I would say it's living radically the presence of the gospel in our lives. We must all do that. And sisters are out there radically living the gospel every day. Let us do that. I think we need to get fired up. We need to be decisive. We need to be out there, and we need to live the gospel right now. But it has to show, and so I strongly encourage everybody to do that.
I love it. And I love what we've heard here just now, right? Living radically the presence of the gospel, empowering sisters to take leadership positions and women to take leadership positions throughout the church. Social teaching, Catholic social teaching is for all of us. I love what we've heard here today. And I want to thank Sister Rosemary, Sister Pauline, Sister Pat, and Sister Norma. Thank you all for joining us here in this conversation. I just want to remind you that this discussion will be recorded and posted on our website and social channels very soon. And we have follow-up resources already up at our site if you want to learn more about anything you've heard here today. We hope you can join us for future dialogues this fall. On September 19th, we'll have our first Salt and Light gathering for young people on how we can live faithfully in our personal, professional, and political lives. And our participants include Luke Russert, Eric Bazale-Emile, Tamika Mason, and Elizabeth Ferrardo. It'll be a great conversation. In October, you've heard from Sister Pat in particular about this new document following up on Laudato Si. And in October, we'll be holding a public dialogue around the release of that document. So please watch out for that. It's going to be a great conversation. On November 2nd, we're hosting the Washington premiere of the award-winning film Join or Die around Robert Putnam's work on building social connection, followed by a public dialogue on building community and resisting isolation. And participants will include Robert Putnam, the filmmakers Pete and Becky Davis, and others. And then on November 14th, finally for now, we'll have a Dahlgren dialogue here at Georgetown on the unfolding situation in Nicaragua and solidarity with Jesuits, the church, and others facing repression there. So now I want to thank my colleagues, John Carr, Kimberly Mazik, Anna Gordon, and Christian Sunan for all their help putting this dialogue together. And please join me in thanking Sister Dr. Rosemary Derumbe, Sister Paulina Cayo, Sister Pat Ryan, and Sister Norma Pimentel for being a part of this public dialogue on Catholic sisters living the Church's social mission, Signs of Hope. Thank you all, and we'll see you again soon.